Welcome to Politics, the show where we strip away the talking points, bypass the spin, and dive straight into the tough conversations about politics that everyone else is trying to avoid. Politics isn't a game, but it's often played like one. On this show, we expose the strategies, question the motives, and break down how the decisions made in back rooms actually impact your daily life. We aren't here to echo party lines or give anyone a free pass. We're here to ask the uncomfortable questions, challenge the conventional wisdom, and have raw, honest debates with the people shaping our world. If you are tired of the usual political theater and ready for some unfiltered truth, you are in the right place. Let's get into it.
Ashe, ashe, ashe is what I like to begin by saying to all the people out there that are watching. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Kendall Stevenson, and welcome to Stevenson and Yates. We are politricking. Always, we like to start the show off with something to be grateful for. Went to the doctor, so I'm really thankful right now for modern technology and the way it's been able to help me out with a lot of situations physically. And I would suggest that anyone, especially young men, make sure you go get checked out. All right? I mean, because life is short, babe, but you don't want to live a short, unhealthy life. Yeah. All right. Let me bring my boy in, Mr. Ronald Yates. Hotep, what's happening, brother? How was your weekend, man?
My weekend went by pretty well. I can't complain. It was nice. I could spend time with family. Had a nice little fish fry thing going on, so it was good. How was yours?
Yeah, I wanted to let you. It was good. It was good. It was it was good. It was more relaxing. It's much needed time to sit back and relax. But I want to tell you something. If you got a pool, brother, oof, man, and my pool is an above ground pool and it sits out in the sun. So when it's on those days, that algae, man, is like nothing I could do to get rid of that algae. It's just a lot of work. But other than that, once it's cleaned out, we got in the pool and had a great time. That was a lot of fun this weekend.
So are you saying that somebody came to your pool, cut the liner, and allowed the algae to grow back like they did with the reflecting pool in DC? It might have been the same person. Check your cameras. Check your cameras.
I better go call the police and have them arrested.
Yeah.
Stuck in my pool, man.
That's what happened.
Now I'm all messed up. Yeah, I wanted to let you know, brother. There's a young man. His name is John Lewis, and I just wanted to reach out and say hello to him because he was watching you, and he likes he likes a lot of things you have to say. So, anytime
I appreciate that.
I respectfully make sure that you get it. So,
I appreciate that, and I'd like to say hello to the brother. Hello, Mr. John. How are you?
His name is John Lewis, no doubt. How about that?
Strong name
to live. Strong name, John Lewis. He's a good brother too. I got a chance to meet him, so he's a pretty cool brother. Let's get into it. We talk about the oil prices and the way that they got everything locked down and you can't get the oil out. Well, the Chinese kind of started to figure it out, so they're going more green than anything. So at one point, the Chinese was using like 20% of the world's oil went to China. And now it just seems like if the Chinese don't care, they're going green with the solar, with the wind, and they're trying to rebuild their economy. What do you think about that one?
Well, this is something that goes back decades, right? When Jimmy Carter was elected in 1976, one of the things he did was put solar panels on the roof of the White House. He was talking about conservation then. He was talking about ending our dependence on foreign sources of oil back then. Mm-hmm. Well, the Republican Party shaped President Carter as somewhat of a nutcase, right? That, this is insane to think that we should get away from fossil fuels, that we should be relying on renewable sources of energy. That's something that is talked about now, frequently. But then he was just considered, a bit of a nut. And now it's come full circle, right? We are in a situation where we're still relying on foreign sources of oil, at least for a portion of the oil that we consume in this country.
Well, not so much,
And when
not
it's
so much foreign. We produce our own oil, and we're doing the export thing now. We're not doing much of the import. So
well,
this
we
is our
we
oil. We're burning up.
well, we only buy, a smaller percentage of oil from abroad, right? Um, but we're still in the situation. If all of our oil is domestic, then why are our prices going up? So obviously, there are still some oil companies that are buying oil from the Middle East, and it's driving up the cost of oil again, right? I think oil is approaching $100 a barrel again, and why, right? Realistically, this war that we find ourselves in, and war that the president promised he would never put us in that situation. He said these wars were stupid, they're costly. And he finds himself embroiled in a stupid and costly war that recently cost, I think just the other day, cost 2 more American service members their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be realistic. This bombing campaign eventually is going to have to stop. If America is truly interested in regime change and actually defeating the Iranian regime, that's going to require boots on the ground. And I think that is something that Trump said he would never do, but it's something that he has to very, very seriously consider, because you're not going to win this war by hurling missiles. That's just not going to do it. America launches missiles and Iran launches missiles and drones in retaliation, right? Trump told us last year when he bombed Iran or Iran's nuclear sites that Iran had their nuclear capabilities had been obliterated, set back generations. Well, if that was the case, why did you need to go to war, 8, 9 months later? And then during the war, he told us that the war was over within the first hour, that Iran had been, their military capabilities had been seriously degraded. Well, if that's the case, how is Iran managing to fight back all these months later, right?
Mm-hmm.
So somebody obviously is not telling us the truth.
And
the American people.
In addition to that, already this war has cost us $37 billion, and that's taxpayers' money. Taxpayers' money. And those missiles that we talk about that they're firing at the drones, those drones cost $50,000, I believe, and we're shooting them down with $250 million rockets. So it's costing us much more to remain in this war. So something's going to have to break. Something's going to have to give. And as far as putting the boots on the ground, I don't think it's going to be the Irans or the Iranians in this kerfuffle by itself. I don't think they're going to be here by themselves. I think you got the Houthis that are going to come down and give them aid and support.
Well, they already have. They entered. They already have. Right now, they're blocking shipments of oil from Saudi Arabia. So the Houthis, who they say are backed by Iran, has already entered into this fray. And you have to understand something, right? At some point, either Trump is going to commit to this war or he's going to walk away and lose face, right? Trump, one of his things he always says is he doesn't want to be looked upon as being a loser. So that being the case, he'll have to fully commit to this war, which would mean boots on the ground, or he'll have to walk away and admit we lost. And at this point, we are losing. As you said, Iran is using drones and we're using Patriot missiles. What we're doing is we're depleting the battery of Patriot missiles, firing into Iran and attempting to take down their drones and their missiles. Well, it comes down to who can absorb the cost. Of course, our media is saying, well, it's Iran. Iran cannot continue to meet the cost of this war. Well, Iran, if Iran is in control of the Strait of Hormuz, Iran can charge ships passage through the strait. What is
Mm-hmm.
America getting? Right.
Mm.
And, I think what people are not paying close enough attention to, about 3 weeks, a month ago, America and Iran were negotiating a ceasefire. In fact, we had a ceasefire that was agreed to by both sides in
Mm-hmm.
principle. In principle. Well, what people didn't pay close attention to was the response of Benjamin Netanyahu. He was not happy with the fact that America and Iran were ending hostilities. Then all of a sudden now, a projectile, a missile, something is fired at a ship passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Was it Iran that fired this missile? Or was it someone else to get this conflict going again? I don't think it was Iran. I think it is quite possible that Israel fired this missile to blame Iran, knowing that it would bring America back into this conflict. And
I tell you, man, I don't think Trump really give a damn about a ceasefire or not, because on a Friday he says we have a ceasefire, but then on Saturday he orders a strikes and start blowing shit up more. So I don't think he really cares about whether we're gonna have a ceasefire or not. Yeah, like I tell you, if he put boots on the ground, man, we're gonna lose a lot of troops, especially in that region. I mean, didn't we learn from Afghanistan and all the other countries that I figured we would have learned something by that. I figured we would have learned something by trying to just defeat the Native American, and how hard that was. How about Vietnam? Did we learn anything from Vietnam? These guys would come out there with no weapons, no shoes, no nothing, and just do all kind of nefarious things to American soldiers. So what do we expect that's going to happen here now? What do you think that's going to happen to our troops that are out there? And we're still kicking out. We're paying for this now. Remember that. This is all coming out of our pockets.
Right. So Fox News had one of their correspondents talk about a potential quagmire. This is the same sort of talking points that were used during Afghanistan, that 20-year war, and also in Vietnam, right? We're in that same sort of position right now. America can't simply withdraw and the Strait of Hormuz remain closed or in the hands of the Iranian regime. Because if that were to be the case, then why are these American service members? Why did they die? What have we accomplished? What did we spend trillions or billions of dollars on if Iran continues to control the Strait of Hormuz? And you have to keep in mind that today, Pete Hegseth, or should I say, Pete, let me check your testosterone levels, Hegseth, is in Washington right now asking for billions of dollars to continue this war. And I guess part of the money from this appropriation will go to check testosterone levels.
Now, isn't it funny?
It's insane.
Have to take the flu shot. You're mandatory. You're not mandatory to take the flu shot. It's not. You're a soldier. If you say I refuse to take the flu shot for whatever reason, religious or whatever, you must take that test for your testosterone. It's mandatory.
You don't have to take the flu. You don't have to take COVID, right? But yeah, if you're over the age of 30 in the military, we're going to check your testosterone levels. And what are you going to do with that information? And I did a piece the other day and I sent it to you. The question I have is, as an American, don't you have a right to medical privacy? Why does the government need to know what my testosterone levels are? What are you going to do with that information? And if you have somebody or some soldiers, airmen, Marines that are low, is Pete Hegseth and Trump going to donate some of theirs? I mean, these guys, clearly, these are manly men. They've got just doubles of testosterone that they're willing to just spread around, right?
They were talking about hormone therapy. That's what they were talking about. the hormone therapies. Now, there's so many ways to touch those type of problems without the hormone therapies. I mean, it could be nutrition, it could be a lack of sleep, any number of things that could boost or lower your levels. So this guy is talking out the back of his neck. I don't like when people are not in the medical field, but yet they want to give out all this advice. In his case, tell you what you should and what you shouldn't do. This reminds me of when Trump, what did he tell people to inject themselves with bleach?
Yeah.
And that would help get rid of the covert.
It will get rid of it, all right. Get rid of them too.
Yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. But people will follow these people. This is what I don't understand.
Well, here's the thing.
People that will open their mouth and say the things that they say, do the things that they do, look you right in your face and try to tell you how great they are while they're stealing money out of your pocket. It's ridiculous.
Well, here's the thing. The Republican Party said that the Democrats had shifted to the far left, so far that they were saying children have the right to sexual reassignment surgery. They said that's insane. Yet now you're telling grown men you have no choice but to be subjected to testosterone testing to see what your levels are. What makes this? I mean, they're both extreme. So what makes any better than the other? Why is it so extreme for the Democrats, but it's okay for the Republicans to intrude in Americans' lives?
Let me tell you something now. You and I, we've been on the planet now about the same amount of time. Me, I'm probably a little longer than you. But when I started getting into politics and actually started listening to it because it started affecting me, right? I got to tell you something. The one thing I noticed is that as a country, we've always done better when Democrats were in office. Anytime the Republicans were in office, it was either a war or some kind of ish coming down. It's never truly positive. And I think Reagan started that with that trickle down effect. And it's never stopped trickling down. They just been taking more and taking more and taking more, like robbing barons. When we discussed that, that's what they're doing. They're just taking our money constantly, and then telling us in our face that we need to be more patriotic or wave a flag, and that's going to take care of everything. It's not going to take care of anything.
Well, I'll tell you something, right? In terms of wars are extremely profitable, and not for the American people, but for corporations and industry.
All right.
So because of that, if you go back, right, JFK, one of the reasons that, he was assassinated was because he did not want to get involved in a war in Cuba, didn't want to authorize the attack on Cuban soil, nor did he want to increase America's presence in Southeast Asia, Vietnam. So because of that, Kennedy was killed. And if you look at it, right, almost every president, Democrat or Republican, has bombed the hell out of something. Clinton, when he was in trouble with Monica Lewinsky, bombed an aspirin factory. And, let's be realistic. With Obama bombed several sites in the Middle East. So that seems to be a go-to tactic for, the president, regardless of what side of the aisle you come down on. This is just standard American operating procedure. We're going to bomb somebody or something, right? People are going to die. So I just think that both sides are equally culpable, right? And we're just talking about covert wars. We'll never know, which side of the aisle is funding some of these, I'm talking about overt wars, should I say. No one will tell us about the covert wars we funded, or that the covert action that we've been in that is, of course, off the books. We don't want the country to know what we've done. So I would say they're both equally culpable.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that may be subjective. I'm just going pretty much by stats, by the what is it, GOP, and how we raised money and how we've done better under certain people. I mean, I don't see the Democrats coming along and telling you that they want to take away your Medicare, or they want to mess around with your Social Security. I don't see them just say those things like that. Now, I'm not all with the Democrats. They damn sure have got their faults, man. I mean, but I believe we might have discussed this before. Is that personally, I'm more Democrat, socialist, and conservative. If you want to kind of roll all that into one, some things I think we need to be a little more conservative about, and some things I think we need to get more involved with is even the government. Like when we talk about having universal health care, I don't think that should even be a questionable issue. I think that's something that we should have. So that's where I feel about that. But I'm just saying, in my little lifetime growing up here and up until now, I just think that we've done better under the Democrats. Just, you know,
I guess it's a matter of debate, right? I don't know. Um, overall, we haven't done very well at all, right? This country for the past probably, last 50, 75 years, right, has been in a steady rate of decline, right? The value of the dollar continues to fall. Prices continue to rise. American industry has been going overseas, right? We've lost our manufacturing base, and that's both sides, Democrats and Republicans, because you got to understand something. In America, money talks. Money talks very loud, so loud that the Supreme Court, with the decision, I can't think of the name of the decision right now, but they said that you can spend as much money as you want in political races, right?
yeah.
And Citizens United is what it is, right? That decision, Citizens United,
the APAC and the CPACs, right. That's when they said
and
that
that they
corporations are people now. They're people. They're not corporations. They're people.
they said it's speech. They said money equals speech, right? And because of that, they basically, the entire democracy, if that's what we ever had, is under threat when you have these corporations putting hundreds of millions of dollars, and not just corporations. Just think about it. Some key races in New York, the senator from New York, I can't remember his name, young black man, he lost his race. Why? APAC, millions of dollars to his opponent. The sister from Missouri, Corey, can't remember Corey's last name. Anyway, same thing, APAC, millions of dollars to her opponent, right? So, of course, the Democrats cannot match these funds, or perhaps they weren't trying. Why? How many U.S. senators or members of Congress do not take APAC money? The answer is 5. We have 535 members of Congress. 530 take money from APAC. So that's why there was no effort on behalf of the Democratic Party to protect Corey. I wish I could remember Corey's last name, from Missouri. The brother from New York. There was no desire to protect him. And if you think about it, several years back, when Hillary Clinton was the candidate in 2016, the candidate the people were more excited about was Bernie Sanders.
Right.
It was the Democratic Party that killed one of their own, which the Democrats do over and over again, to put Hillary in there. Bernie stood a better chance of beating Trump in 2016 because they already had the dirt on Hillary Clinton from, the Haiti fundraiser, right? All of the money that was supposed to be earmarked for Haiti ended up being controlled by the Clinton Foundation, Bill and Hillary. The death of Vince Foster and so many others. So they had a playbook for Hillary. Might not have had one for Bernie that would have been effective. So the
Hmm.
Democrats, it's always their race to lose, not to win, to lose.
So, what do you think about this Save America Act? You think that's going to give the Republicans more votes? Because I mean, don't we already have a system in place where you must have ID, even to register as a voter?
You know what? There is two parts to the Save America Act. The one that they talk about is voter ID, right? To prevent voter fraud. The other portion that they don't talk about is the fact that if the Save America Act passes, the federal government has the right to every 30 days essentially purge state voter rolls because the state will be have to turn over their voter rolls to the federal government. And the government has the right, the federal government has the right to purge those rolls under
Mm-hmm.
the Save America Act. So
Mm-hmm.
of course, if the government were to get their hands on that voter information, you can pretty much guess where the purges would take place. In fact, today, Trump has decided to withhold Medicaid reimbursement for California, and I forget the other state. And of course, people in this country who are right on the right will say, oh, yeah, California is a liberal state. Aren't there Republicans in California?
It really
Hasn't
shouldn't make a difference
California?
when
It
we talking about
shouldn't.
healthcare.
It
When we're
shouldn't.
talking about people's health, it shouldn't make a difference. That's what I don't like about this guy Trump with all of this vengeance stuff, and he's got to take vengeance out on a person because, or because of people political party. I thought the politicians. I mean, I know it's a fantasy, right? But politicians were supposed to be there to help the public, to help their public, their entire public. All of Americans, not just some, just all of Americans. That this is what their job is supposed to be, to help the people.
But here's the
Seems like they're just
problem.
helping themselves so that they're getting rich. That's all.
But here's the problem with say a state like California, huge state, millions of voters. California has elected Republican governors like the Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Schwarzenegger.
So what you have is a balance, right? Probably there may be more, the ratio may be higher in favor of Democrats, but there are a number of Republicans in the state of California. If you're withholding the Medicare reimbursement to California, you're hurting the Republicans who live there, who supported you, who voted for you. And the people around the country who say, well, we're on the right, we support Trump, they're going to look at California as a whole and say, well, you know what? They're lefties. But what about the people in the state who voted for Schwarzenegger, who put him in office? What about the people in California who voted for Trump? They're going to suffer. If it's like today we had a rainstorm, a massive rainstorm. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. If you're out in the rain, you're going to get wet. And if you live in California, Democrat or Republican, if those funds are withheld, it's going to hurt you no matter what side of the aisle your favorite candidate sits on. Essentially, you're screwed.
So how can he withhold funds? Wouldn't that take an act of Congress? Doesn't Congress control the purse strings? Wouldn't he need to have the permission from Congress in order to do that?
Well, for I don't know, decades now, basically Congress has abdicated power to the presidency, right?
Mm.
The Constitution clearly delineates, who's in control of what. But at this point, we have an executive branch that basically is in control of the other two branches of government. I mean, let's be realistic. Trump basically dictates to the legislature as well as the Supreme Court. No one tells Trump, you can't do this, you can't do that, right? I mean, there have been some minor wins, but in the grand scheme of things, where are the Epstein files?
Hmm.
Where are they?
Hmm.
Congress has already said they're supposed to be released. So where are those files? In terms of war, the president had the War Powers Act, which means you can send troops off for 60 days. Then you need congressional approval. Where's the congressional approval?
There's none. What are we at? 22 weeks already? 23 weeks of the war already?
I've lost track. But the fact of the matter is, right, you need congressional approval to go to war. And of course, Trump has just said pretty much on his own, this is what we're going to do. And the Republican Party basically goes along no matter what. And, I think for Trump, I guess there may be two schools of thought as it relates to him. Either he's not going to seek a third term, which would violate the Constitution, or he figures, I've served 2 terms. I cannot be reelected. I've made $2 billion and my income continues to, grow exponentially. I don't need to sit around in politics. I'm set. My family's set. I have generational wealth. I can walk away with my $400 million 747 and the rest of the money that I've stolen from the American taxpayers, and I can disappear. Is there any reason for him to seek a third term at this point?
Not really. Especially not at his age. He seems to be losing it anyway. He might as well get the hell out. He can't stay in politics. Something is wrong with that man. He's getting to the point where his mind is not working right. Not at all. Especially you know what he wants to do, right? So he wants to deploy ICE agents out to the polling sites when they have their polling, because he's still saying that there's fraud going on, even though everybody's told him, all the experts, even his own people, has told him it's not happening. But he still wants to deploy these ICE people out to the polling. What is that to deter people or to scare people, or what is that supposed to do?
That's exactly what it is, as a deterrent to keep people away from the polls. And I'm glad you mentioned ICE, because there was the shooting of the young man in Maine, right? A young man that was legally permitted to work in this country, had a work permit, right? Had not overstayed a visa, was not a criminal, no criminal record. He was shot by an ICE agent. His name, and forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, I believe it's Brule. Well, this agent, when he was hired, said that he had a history of cognitive impairment due to an accident. Cognitive impairment. How do you give someone with cognitive impairment a gun and a badge and something to go enforce the law? Worse is the fact that he has 2 ex-wives. Each ex-wife is telling a consistent story, a pattern of physical and emotional abuse. So much so they said he threw hot water at his own child. And that in high school, yes, and that in high school, he was known to use racist slurs toward Black people. Now, all of this, right, can simply be found out by doing a proper investigation. If they would have talked to the wives, they would have told them, listen, this guy is not the proper candidate. He has threatened us. Even after divorcing these women, still threatening phone calls, still harassment. And he called one of them and said, please don't go to the media and talk about me and damage my reputation. Your reputation was damaged from the day you showed up with cognitive impairment, serious, very serious, questionable behavior. And yet ICE hired him. And even after ICE upper management, maybe Holman, decided we're going to reduce the number of roundups, Trump said no, continue to do so. That's where we are in this country.
Well, the ICE agents are something else in this country where they just shot, I think it was 2 more people. I think he was saying the ICE agents shot a couple more people I don't know what's going on with this country, man. And people are saying that the ICE agents are not like the Gestapo or the SS. Kind of seems to be, man, because they can get away with all kind of stuff. That they're not really trained well. I understand that when they go through the training, pass or fail, they pass them anyway. That the drug test, a lot of them are not passing the drug test, but they're still passing and hiring these people. So these are the kind of people you got roaming around in the streets talking about that they're law enforcers.
Well, you know what? Most law enforcement agencies, if you have a felony or serious misdemeanor, it is an automatic disqualification.
Mm.
Many of these ICE agents, these are the very same people that went into the Capitol on January 6th. These are the people that were pardoned by Donald Trump. These people have now been issued badges and guns and told to go out and round people up by any means necessary. So what you get, I mean, if you're going to take people who are poorly trained, give them unlimited resources, and just tell them to go out there and round people up, this is what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, for people to try to normalize this behavior, this is the stuff we used to say, well, you know, this happens in China. This happens in Russia. We don't do this in America. America is a country of laws. What law allows you to shoot down innocent people? What law is that? Of course, you know, they're going to say, well, if he wouldn't have resisted, what resistance was there from Renee Good? What about Alex Preddy? This gentleman, Salgado Araujo in Houston, what resistance did he offer? And this young man in Maine, what resistance did he offer?
None.
And you have these people who have no law enforcement experience who are going to tell you about the law, how the law works, and what the law is allowed to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
You know, when people see what people see what they want to see, man. A lot of times people will sit there and watch the video and they say, look, he didn't comply or she didn't comply. Like the cop is throwing the guy around like a rag dog and choking him half to death, but he didn't comply. I wonder how these people would act under those same conditions. The one that complained, that say that the cops were being right. I wonder how would they handle the same situation if they were thrown up against the car or thrown down to the ground and somebody got a baton and they're choking them to death. I wonder how would they respond, especially if they were innocent. If they're innocent, they didn't do anything.
Well, you know what? There's a saying that for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. And if you notice, over the last several years, the number of officers dying in line of duty is on the increase. And that is because a lot of people feel that there is no justice within the justice system. And, you know, they felt that for years. You know, Black and brown communities have been trying to warn this country about what happens when the police have no accountability. That's something we've dealt with since we were brought to this country, those of us that were brought here. But now other people are beginning to see it. They're beginning to feel it. And they realize, right, that they might have to take justice into their own hands because they're not going to get it from the courts. And you have to keep in mind that the president of the United States single-handedly dismantled the justice system because he didn't want the justice system to investigate him and his family.
But you see what they're doing with the FBI. The FBI says that they don't want to be bothered with doing any investigations on these ICE agents. So that's like a permission to do what the hell you want because nobody's taking accountability. The FBI is not taking any, and neither of these ICE agents or anyone in our administration.
Well, that's Kash Patel. Kash Patel was recently questioned about some of his expenditure, the amount of money he's spending, you know, not just on the agency, but on himself, these extravagant trips he's been taking at taxpayer expense, you know, and when he was hauled before Senate, the committee, of course, he used an expletive, right? because he knows that as long as he is willing to do the bidding of one Donald J. Trump, nothing's going to happen. He will
Mhm.
be there serving as the head of the FBI, even though he knows nothing about law enforcement. He knows nothing about heading an agency like the FBI. This should be headed by someone who is a career FBI agent who knows the ins and outs of the agency. When was Kash Patel an FBI agent? When was he a police officer?
Never. He was
Right.
never. He was never. Well, wasn't he from some news people or something like? He was a podcaster, there was something like that.
He was. He
Yeah.
was a conspiracy theory podcaster, right?
Mm, mm.
And of course, no DEI hire there, right? Clearly, there's no one in the country more qualified than Kash Patel or Pete Hegseth, right? These guys, it's not because they were given these positions because they're willing to do whatever Trump says. No, these guys are highly qualified. Somebody that's a drunken Fox News host who said, "I'll stop drinking if I get the nomination."
How about that?
And Kash Patel, this poor slob, you see him standing in the background of some of these interviews or some of these press conferences, just kind of looking around crazy, like, "Oh my God, what am I doing here? I don't want anybody to realize that I'm an idiot and I have no idea what I'm doing." But you make that abundantly clear every day.
Sure does. Him and the that's the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of War. But what about the DOJ, and that's how they're going after the news reporters and their family, the journalists? You've heard about that one?
Well, if you recall, during Trump's second run for office, do you remember how J.D. Vance talked about how the Biden administration was censoring the media?
Mm-hmm.
How they were denying free speech, and now you have Trump, who will not allow certain news organizations even to be on the plane with him. They've been kicked out of the White House press corps. Why isn't Scott Pelley on 60 Minutes anymore? Why is it Jimmy Kimmel was taken off the air? And the list goes on and on. He's back on now. He's back on now, right? But the other late night talk show host, and his name escapes me right now, Stephen Colbert.
Yeah.
Stephen Colbert's off the air.
He went after Don Lemon. He went after Don Lemon too. He was at
There's another one. All of them have been taken off the air. Why? Were they not effective journalists? Did they not have a track record? One thing in common: they angered one Donald J. Trump, and that's all.
That's really good, because that reminds me about what's going on in Canada right now. Now, you see, Canada we have free trade with, but because I guess the news had reported something or says something that Donald Trump didn't like, he slapped tariffs on him. Well, yesterday he slapped another 50. He raised it by 50%.
And you know why he did that? He said because the smoke from the wildfires was coming into America and that it was poisoning us. So in other words, he wanted the people of Canada to go outside with their fans and fan the flames or the smoke away from the United States, so that I guess it would go out to the Pacific Ocean or up north into the Arctic Circle, right? But because the wind shifted and brought it down into the United States, Trump decided that they were not managing their forestry very well, so that he had to slap a tariff on them because of the way the wind was blowing. And this is a man, right? And this is a man that says he is a brilliant businessman, that he is a stable genius.
Dude, the only money that this guy really got was money that he's stealing either through politics or whatever money he inherited. He's been a lousy businessman. How do you lose on having a business where the house always wins?
Mhm.
Always. I
Right.
never seen the casino close up, man. House always wins, bro. There's
Mhm.
always money that people gonna come and spend their money. As long as you got the gambling and slot machines, whatever, people are gonna come. He lost out on that. And every business pretty much that he has touched, man, is gone to the wayside. You know,
Mhm.
and a lot of stuff that people don't realize has his name on it, but he actually doesn't own it.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He just he sells his name, but that's it. But unfortunately, or fortunately for him, what revived Trump socially and then politically is The Apprentice. For those of us from New York, we knew Trump, from way back when, and we knew that Trump was a liar, that he was a narcissist, an extreme narcissist, going back into the 70s and 80s when he claimed to be the biggest builder, the biggest developer in New York, when there were
Yeah.
so many companies that were way ahead of him in terms of development in New York City. But he
Him was way.
always, there were just so many, right? That he would get on TV and lie. But there is an old interview he gave to Barbara Walters, where she gave it to him, where she said, "We contacted your banks. You're filing for
Mm-hmm.
bankruptcy, right? You can't
Mm-hmm.
borrow any more money." Because of that, Trump now only does select interviews with media that is friendly to him, because he's not going to put himself in a situation. I mean, just think about it. He walked out on a interview with an NBC correspondent just a few months ago because he tried to lie to her and she would not accept his lie. He cut the interview.
Mm-hmm. He got
And
up
of
and walked out.
course,
He was pissed off.
yes, he
Mm-hmm.
did. And
Mm-hmm.
that is what he's doing across the board. If you're not going to allow him to lie to you, he's not going to grant you access to his speeches, to his addresses, to his interviews, simply
Mm-hmm.
because he doesn't believe that he has to. He believes that everybody is supposed to work for him, not for the American people, not for the US Constitution, but for him.
All right, my dog is getting on my nerves. So I'm gonna try to bring up this one more subject that I wanted to talk about, and in the country, one of the countries in Africa, Nigeria. The Russians are recruiting them to go to Ukraine to fight.
They
Did you hear
have,
about that?
yeah, they've been recruiting for a number of countries in Africa, asking these men to come into Russia to fight, and that they would give them positions in Russia, right? Um, these brothers are looking for opportunity, and Russia is basically saying, "We'll grant you the opportunity, but you first have to come fight for us." And
Mm,
for those former service members, African former service members, they realized later on that the promises that were made are not being kept by Vladimir Putin. Some of these
mhm.
guys are losing their lives, some of them getting horribly injured, and none of these things that they've been promised, well, they're not materializing. These guys are just trying to send money back home to feed their families.
Mhm.
And Russia said, "Sure, we'll do what we can to help you, but you have to fight for us first."
Mm, mm. All right, we're gonna wrap this one up. Pick it up next week. Where you want to pick it? Well, we got a whole lot to see what's going on over the weekend and
There'll
going
be
on there
some
for
new
the rest.
stuff.
I'm sure there will be, man. I'm absolutely sure there will be. Just a shout out to everybody that's viewing in. Remember, you can like or subscribe. You can always give us a call at 570-664-54. I'm 0574. That's 0574. All right, give us a call sometime. We'd love to hear from you. Leave us a comment. Or if you would like to comment to Brother Yates, send it to Brother Yates. So ask him a question or two. He's pretty proficient at that. So anyway, we like to say thank you. I'm going to say Ashe, my brother, and you generally
Hotep.
say
Hotep.
Hotep,
And
and we are out.
peace.